Hey you, and welcome. My name's Mike, and in this whole video we're heading off to sunny Iowa. We're talking about a whodunit. See, in Lacona lived the Carter family, and when something happened to Mama Shirley, the finger pointing, within the family would begin with one of the lads getting shafted. And maybe the state would agree. Kinda. Let's get into it. So it's Lacona, Iowa that this story, takes us to. I mean, come on, here. What can I say about Lacona, Iowa that hasn't already been said? It turns out a lot and not much at the same time. It's about an hour south of Des Moines. It's home to about 300 odd people, and I think I've run out of things to say. I mean, this is about the height of downtown Lacona. Not a whole lot going on, to be honest with you. It's not exactly party poppin'. That's if you don't care about corn, that is. Which I don't, but they do. It's all a farming community. Corn, soybeans, other things. And that's where the Carter family made a living and a life. That's where Bill and Shirley Carter raised their three, it has to be three, of course it does, children. Bill and Shirley had been high school sweethearts. Married young, quite young. He was 17, herself 16, because she was up to duff. And that would lead to Baba number 1, daughter Jana. She would be followed by Billy Jr. and finally Jason Carter. And so they farmed and lived and farmed and loved as the family grew. Jana and Billy Jr. eventually moved away, leaving only Jason that might follow in the family footsteps of farming. And he did. Jason would move half-mile down the road and become a farmer himself, marrying a woman named Shelley, and he would have 2 children of his own. And that was life. Quiet. By the time 2015 rolled around, Bill and Shirley had been married for 52 years. If you can believe it, it's incredible. Though, as we get into what happened, it wouldn't get any further than that on June 19th, 2015. That day, started off as a regular one on the Carter farm. Shirley would get up at 6 a.m, waking Bill with brekkie at 7. Then they would head to a store nearby for a big ol' cup of joe. That was their everyday routine. Then he dropped her off back home while he headed to do some farming for the day. They were happy out. So it was at 11 a.m, only a couple of miles from home, that Bill, he got a ring from his daughter Jana, telling Bill that his wife Shirley was dead. Bill was, as you can imagine, devastated and raced home. Jana told Bill that Jason had found Shirley in the home, dead, and told Bill to call 911. Now it turns out Jason had already called 911, which is kind of weird why Jason called 911, then called his sister, who called their dad, who also called 911.
911, where is your emergency?
Yeah, I need an ambulance, man.
Okay, to what address?
132 Perry Street. It's Bill Carter, and I'm his son. My mom was laying here on the floor. What hurt you, man? I don't know what happened. What it's 2 hours. I don't get what happened. There's a hole through the floor into the refrigerator. I don't know what you started. I don't get what happened.
Bill raced into the house. Jason was outside on the phone, and inside he found Shirley lying in the kitchen. Her shoes were off. It appeared like it had been a robbery and Shirley had been shot. There were 2 bullet holes in the kitchen, one in the fridge, one in the floor, and their business, work stuff, their office, it was a big old mess. Bedroom too. Shirley had been shot twice in the chest, probably with a rifle. One of the shots had been while she was lying on the floor, so execution style. Perhaps she, had stumbled into something when she arrived home after Bill dropped her off, like some kind of burglary or home invasion, and, they shot her as soon as she walked in the door. That was, the initial thought. That would change. For one thing, her purse hadn't been taken. It remained on the chair. Jewelry remained. I mean, it's possible that upon her entering, the burglar was disturbed and legged it. Though, purse is hard to miss, and you'd think jewelry would be the first item on the list. And if they were, somehow, disturbed and panicked, right? That would mean they didn't have the presence of mind to take the purse and jewelry, but they did take the shells which would have been ejected from the rifle when Shirley was shot. They then learned that Shirley, upon entering, she had made a phone call. So whoever did this wasn't panicked, they were cool as a cucumber, and they had entered the house after her. The door being locked, everybody unlocked everything. Locks? What's that? And this is when the suspects from within the family, you get that.
68-year-old Shirley Carter was found shot to death Friday afternoon. Channel 13's Janae Town is following this story. Janae, it's understandable the lack of an arrest in this case has a lot of people on edge.
A lot of people waiting for that arrest to come. Aaron, we're told that a family member found Carter shot inside her own home Friday. The 68-year-old lived in a rural community where people feel safe enough that they don't always lock their doors. But after what happened, it's a safe bet they're locking up now. A neighbor who's known Shirley Carter his whole life described her as the nicest person you'd ever meet. She and her husband farmed together and were inseparable. On top of being a hard worker, she was also a loving mother and grandmother to 3. People who know the family say they're saddened and a little bit scared after seeing police swarm their rural community. They're at a loss as to why anyone would want to hurt, let alone kill Carter.
Bill was interviewed. After all, sure, he could have done it himself, as was Jason. They went pretty hard on Jason from the get-go, to be honest. But not hard enough, as Bill, he would later say. A few things in that 911 call seemed off.
I mean, from your experience on how long? I don't know, I told Dave, looking at the blood that was there next to her, it wasn't a bright red like when you shoot an animal. It was a deep maroon. And how long do you think? I mean, from you guys planted enough. And laying there for an hour. Yeah. At least. Yeah.
You're talking, it drops you, then you're hysterical, then you have rational thought. Wow, that was a big jump at a short amount of time.
I don't know if I'm on what happened to her. I'm telling you the truth on that.
Well, let me ask you this. So, no. Let me
I want to say something real quick.
Okay.
So what if whoever out there that shot my mom, if they shoot another person here in the next day or two, how are you going to feel?
I feel like we're doing our job. Because we take the information available, and I explain how it works. The thing that we're missing here is a foundation for all of it.
Jason also failed a lie detector test. Now, we talk about them regularly. I think we all know they're not the most legit shit, so fingerprints were taken and all that. Guns were seized from the Carter home. And, of course, one rifle was missing. Possibly the same one that shot Shirley. However, months would pass, without any arrests, without any major updates, and it seemed like the case was cooling off.
Carter's family members say they know who did it, and they hope the evidence leads police to the same suspect. Justin Surency has the story, first on 13.
Bill, he was eliminated as a suspect. He was spotted at a granary an hour away, when this happened, so he couldn't have done it. So that just left one obvious person, as we always see, who, found her. He did enter after her. He also knew where Bill kept his guns, so he could have taken the rifle and, gotten rid of it. The reason he was there that morning was to cut the grass and stuff, and that's when he stumbled across his dead mother, he said. Jason might also have a motive for murdering Shirley. See, The land Bill and Shirley owned, they owned quite a bit of land, and it was worth millions of dollars. And as Jason was the only one of their 3 children who had any interest in farming, Shirley and Bill were going to leave it all to Jason in their will. And they told him that. Just a reminder, probably want to keep the wills, hush hush. Bill started to, more and more, suspect his own son of brutally murdering his wife of 52 years. And as the investigation slowed to a crawl, he wasn't keeping it to himself. He thought the law hadn't investigated his son properly, not gathered enough evidence. The sheriff, Marion County Sheriff Jason Sandhold, was friends with Jason, further complicating the situation. Bill would spend $160,000 trying to put pressure on the police. He would hire a private detective who would confirm his suspicions. He learned that Jason had been sleeping around, something Jason knew his father wouldn't approve of. Jason even kept a phone hidden in the fuse box of his truck to contact his lady friends. Allegedly, the private detective learned that Jason he was in financial dire straits and he would need his dad to bail him out. But, if Bill learned that Jason was sleeping around, Bill would not approve of that, so therefore no dollary dues. But maybe Shirley had learned, and so she had to go. Maybe that's why? That's why. However, the police, weren't convinced. But Bill Carter, he wasn't going to take weren't convinced for an answer, and so he filed a civil suit against his son Jason, wrongful death suit.
The Marion County father is suing his son, claiming the son murdered his mother.
Shirley's husband Bill says he has no doubt his son committed the crime.
I'll never get over her, losing her. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. He needs to pay for what he did. He needs to pay.
In January 2016, 7 months after the death of Shirley, the wrongful death suit was filed by Bill, Jana, and Bill Jr. against Jason. The trial went ahead the following year in April 2017.
She was standing in the circle drive, holding her cup of coffee. That's the last time I seen her.
The killer is sitting a few feet from you. That's the killer right there. Jason Carter.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I don't remember everything I said.
Now today, Bill Carter continued his testimony on the stand, and he shocked the courtroom when he told the jury that he has spent $700,000 on this unusual civil suit to sue his son.
To cut a long story short, basically everything I just told you was used against Jason. How he had the motive, the time, the ability, and the private life shenanigans, and also a $500,000 debt to boot, to be capable and ticking all the boxes to have done this. In fact, maybe Jason even thought his dad would be there too, and wanted them both gone. Jason, of course, denied. He loved his mother. He said, he would never harm her, ever. Yeah, he admitted he was having an affair, but it was what it was. And they weren't in, this huge debt. That was just every year they'd be in debt due to just farming, essentially, and they'd pay it off, no problem. In the end, though, the jury found him guilty.
This is one of the most unusual trials that the folks here in Marion County have ever seen. Certainly one of the most unusual that I've seen, and it just wrapped up a couple of minutes ago. The courtroom in tears, and we found out today that his son, according to the jury, did kill his mother and owes his father $10 million. That is the size of the Shirley Carter's estate. Allegedly, that's what Jason Carter wanted to help his failing farm situation here in Marion County. Now, this jury only deliberated for 2.5 hours. Clearly, they knew that they wanted to make this decision quickly.
Once again, it was a civil trial, not criminal, but being ordered to pay $10 million is not the happiest of days. Though Bill knew he wasn't going to see a penny of that. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving his son had killed his wife. And now that, a civil trial had found him guilty, maybe that would be enough to get a criminal trial, rolling.
Special agents arrested Jason for first-degree murder Sunday in Knoxville.
And it was. See, the district attorney had been keenly having a go at that civil trial, and then 2 days after he was deemed liable, they pounced and Jason Carter was arrested. He was charged with first-degree murder. That trial would begin in March 2019.
I love him. I still love him. He's my son. Do you know how hard that was for me to watch him be handcuffed and shackled? I was there.
If you were in that house that morning with your wife, would you be dead?
Yes, definitely. I think he lost it. I think he lost it a long time ago. He had to. When I lost her, I meant it. I lost a big part of my life.
This time life was on the cards. 10 million, life. He was offered a deal, 5 years, he turned it down. He'd rather go to trial. The last jury trial didn't end well, but hey, second time lucky?
I have no way to prove to you what Jason Carter was thinking when he did it. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. One of the reasons why I'm not required to prove to you motive is there's absolutely nothing I can tell you that would make sense of why it is a son shoots and kills his mother. There's no good reason I can give you. And that's why the law doesn't require me to. The law requires me to prove each and every element of murder in the first degree. But you're going to find at the conclusion of this case, the Judge McCall isn't going to tell you, I had to prove why he did it. And it makes perfect sense why I don't have to do that, because there is no good reason. What I can tell you is that what we will prove to you is that there are clues that lead to only one conclusion. And based on the evidence, at the conclusion of the evidence, we will ask that you return a verdict finding Jason Carter guilty of murder in the first degree.
I've gone to a lot of seminars and training, and they all say at the end, don't ever say, we don't know who. Point at someone. Say, that's the killer. Just come up with someone. I can't do that. What I will point at is an investigation that never followed up on leads, evidence, but at the end, I believe the evidence will show the timeline doesn't make sense. There was no motive. The statements were taken completely out of context. And very significant pieces of evidence weren't followed through.
It was a circumstantial case. Flip a coin. Kinda, though we've seen people with less incriminating stuff get sent away. A key piece of evidence for the defense was this surveillance tape. It's from a grain silo an hour away from the Carter home, which, they said, meant he couldn't have been there at the time of Shirley's death. A medical examiner would say she'd been dead 2 hours by the time she was found, which would have been right around the time she was dropped off at home, likely attacked soon after she entered the house.
I would say I had no forensic evidence that I was aware of from this laboratory, not just myself. No DNA, no fingerprints, no ballistic evidence that said Jason Carter was responsible or not responsible for this death.
So, what was the result this time?
Ladies and gentlemen, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
Lori, could you get that, please? Form of verdict number 1, we the jury find Jason Carter not guilty. Is that your verdict, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Bull, do you care to
Bill! Not happy. Jason was. He was a free man.
Jason Carter reacts to the jury's quick decision. He is not guilty of his mother's murder.
He says the last 4 years have torn his family apart, and his relationship with his dad is pretty much non-existent at this point.
I would like to move forward with my family, and I'll watch out for them. And, you know, I don't know what to say about my dad. I just don't.
And that, as they say, is that, you know, the case of Shirley Carter, it's still unsolved. We still have no idea who shot her. There were a few rumors of people the police didn't investigate, known bad lads, burglars, like maybe it actually was a burglary gone wrong and people were just too focused on Jason. Allegedly, a prison inmate fingered 2 local bad lads as them that done did it. But that's what the defense was saying the entire time. They were staring at Jason because they didn't bother eyeballing, maybe having a go at, any other children of the corn. Who knows, maybe we never will know. Jason since tried to sue his dad, the state, the investigators, the whole shebang, but that would be thrown out. And in 2020, Bill Jr., the other son of Bill, attacked his dad, Bill, for some reason. He was arrested for that. They had some kind of argument.
Court documents show Billy Dean admitted to hitting Bill to the ground and kicking him twice before running off to a nearby field.
Who knows what it was about, but hey, I'd put 10 million on it being about a certain something. The gun that was used in the shooting was never found, so that's another unsolved mystery. And Bill and Jason still live half a mile down the road from each other. Bill still thinks Jason killed Shirley, so bet that's fun. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as usual, let me know your thoughts on this case in the usual place. And you know what you can do for me, finally, is please look after yourself. Till then, I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Mike out.